PS4 video. So PS4 HEN is evolving at a rapid pace. We're seeing some pretty significant updates here that we're going to go over in this video. So PS4 HEN being the open source alternative to Gold HEN. Gold HEN is fantastic. It has lots of additional features that are not included in this version of HEN yet. But of course, the problem with Gold HEN is that it doesn't support all firmwares. So if we take a look here, you can see the supported firmwares on Gold HEN are just the kind of main jailbreak firmwares over the years. But there are certain firmwares that are not supported. And of course, sometimes you can be on a PS4 that's not able to update to one of the supported firmwares if you have, for instance, a broken Blu-ray drive on your console. But the advantage of this version of HEN is that it supports firmwares all the way from 5.05 up to 12.02, which includes all firmwares in between. So in my previous video about the latest beta release of Gold HEN, which now supports 12.0 and 12.02, I was seeing a lot of people commenting about them being on 11.02, 11.50, 11.52, and, you know, when is it coming for them? Well, obviously it will eventually get support for those firmwares, but in the meantime, you can use this open source alternative, which already has support for 11.02, 11.50, and 11.52. So definitely give this a try, because there's a lot of new features that have been added here. Originally, it was just your basic HEN functionality, like the homebrew enabler, just to get homebrew and fake packages running. But now it has a whole plugin feature that's been added, including patches for ShellUI to allow more features, as well as PRX plugins for a kernel log server and an FTP server that are now built in. Now, specifically, this is included in the PS4 HEN plugins repo from Illusion here. We can just go to the releases and download the latest version. You can download the plugins separately here from this zip file, or you can just download the homebrew enabler bin file itself, which will install the plugins automatically when you launch it. So we can just download this hen.bin file from the plugins repo, and then we can just copy this over to a USB drive. So obviously, depending on what jailbreak you're using, you'll have to install this differently. I'm using the latest jailbreak with the Japanese game with the Auto Lua loader. So I'm just going to take a USB drive that's formatted in exFAT format and copy the bin file inside in the root of the drive. And then I can rename it to payload.bin, which will allow the autoloader to recognize it and load it from the USB. So we'll do a few tests with the package installer. I've copied a package file to the root of the USB. I'll also copy one into a PKG folder here as well to see if it only finds package files on the root or if it has the directory depth scanning that Gold HEN includes. So we'll go ahead and copy that in just for testing. And at that point, we'll go and unplug the USB drive and plug it into our PS4. Okay, so moving back over to the PlayStation 4, of course, I can run the jailbreak using the Japanese Artemis engine game, which I have the Auto Lua loader already set up on. So that's going to load the payload from the USB and then transfer it to the hard drive. But I believe I already have the payload up to date there on the hard drive. So it'll just go ahead and launch it for us. Welcome to HEN version 2.2.0. And now what it's going to do is it waits 5 seconds and then restarts the ShellUI, which allows us to enable the custom menus that are now included in this version. So we're just going to wait for this to do its thing. And there it goes. So it reloads ShellUI and we are back up and running. So first thing you'll notice, of course, is the little HUD in the top left-hand corner that displays a bunch of information about your console. So this is something you typically see on test kits and development kit consoles, but by restarting the ShellUI, it seems they're able to get it working here on our retails. So as you can see, it's got the system software version at the top. It's also got the amount of storage being used on the hard drive, a few other pieces of information. Your IP address is displayed, which is very handy because you don't have to go into the settings to get your IP if it changes, if you have a dynamic IP address. It also shows your MAC address. And then also the model name is also displayed there as well. And then also PS4 HEN version 2.2.0b. So pretty handy there. If you find this distracting, it will go away whenever you open any applications. So like if we open up the internet browser, it disappears. Or even if we just go into the settings menu, then it disappears. So it's only displayed while you're on the home menu. And yeah, maybe in the future, we can maybe move it around because I would kind of rather have it maybe in the bottom, maybe bottom left or bottom right, but we'll see if that might be something that can be done in the future. But anyway, as you can see, if we head over to our settings, we now have our HEN settings showing up here. And of course, the debug settings are also still available there at the bottom, but we now have access to this HEN settings at the top. So in here, we've got our payload options. So we can install package files from the hard disk, and we can also install package files from the USB storage. So if I select USB storage, we've got our Minecraft package on here, and it even shows you the file path where that's stored on the USB. But it's not detecting the one that I put in the folder, so they do still need to be in the root of the USB drive right now. You can also install package files to the hard drive. Now there is an FTP server that is currently running on the console. So if we switch back over to our computer real quick and open up an FTP client like FileZilla and enter the IP address of our PS4, which is handily available in that little notification there. So we can then go ahead and enter 2121 as the port number and connect, and that connects us over to our PS4. So we can see here we've got the data folder, and in the data folder you can create a PKG folder, and then you can put any package files in here. So let's say I want to take this PT package and copy it in there to upload it to my PS4. And once the package file is now uploaded to the package directory in the data folder, it should then show up here if we go to install package files from hard disk, and we can see the package file showing up. And again, it shows us the file path of where that is installed, and we can go ahead and actually install it onto the console itself. Yeah, it does not delete the package file after it's been installed. So maybe that's something that could be added in the future, or at least as an option. Next, we have the payload options, which only take effect when you reload the Homebrew enabler payload. So when you rerun the jailbreak. So we've got the option to enable exploit fixes, attempts to repatch bad/missing patches that should have been made by the exploit. This helps ensure system stability after initial jailbreak process. So there are some older jailbreaks or some implementations that were not applying all of the necessary patches and causing instability errors. So if you are running into stability issues caused by the jailbreak, you can enable this option, which should help improve stability. We've also got memory mapping patches, enables memory mapping patches for decrypting binary files. These patches allow the system to properly handle encrypted executables and libraries. We've also got block firmware updates, which unmounts the update partition, which prevents any system updates from being downloaded onto the console. We also have ASLR, address space layout randomization, for cheats, so that is also enabled. So all of those things are things that you should just leave enabled for the most part. But this is interesting. We've got the enable no BD patches. So if you have a broken Blu-ray drive, normally you cannot update your system. It needs the Blu-ray drive to be detected to update, but you can enable this patch and then it will allow you to update so that you can get to a firmware that maybe has more support for things like Gold HEN. So that is a pretty handy feature that's built in there, especially given the fact that this version of HEN supports so many firmware versions. So if you are on an older firmware, it's likely that you do have support for HEN that you can then run this on, enable the no BD patch, and then be able to update your system. So next we have got the target ID spoofer. So changes the console's reported target ID for development or region specific functionality. So currently it is set to none, but you can set it to all of these different regions for the console, including some interesting ones like Kratos Arcade Cabinet. And then also you've got things like dev kit and test kit options that you can also enable. And then we've got skip userland patches, which skips applying the shellcore, ShellUI, and remote play patches, which is useful for test kit users. Then we have the option to write the HEN plugin files to the HDD, which is what was done to actually get the plugins loaded in the first place here, because when we load the HEN payload, it writes those PRX plugins for the FTP payload, the ShellUI plugin, as well as the Klog plugin, and it writes those to the data folder inside a HEN folder and then executes them. So that's how we got the plugins on the hard drive. We don't even have to copy them manually. Just by running HEN, it does that automatically with that option. And then we have the option, of course, to enable and disable the plugins entirely from here. So yeah, those are the menu options that are currently available. And you have to bear in mind how quickly things are developing with this version of HEN. Because, you know, just a couple of weeks ago, we didn't even have FTP. We didn't have a Klog server. We didn't have any custom menus like this built into the system. And just in the space of a couple of weeks, we've seen all of this development, including the support for all of the different firmwares that were previously unsupported. So yeah, this version of HEN is evolving at a very rapid pace at the moment, which is fantastic to see. So yeah, just wanted to kind of go over the improvements that have been made to this version of HEN. Again, you can use this on firmwares that do not support Gold HEN yet, like 11.02, 11.50, and 11.52. If you're on those firmwares and you've been waiting for Gold HEN, you don't need to wait. You can just use this version of HEN in the meantime. Big shout out, obviously, to EchoStretch, Alaziv, and Illusion for all of the developments here that are being made on this version of HEN and any other developers involved. So hope you guys enjoyed this one or found the information useful. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. And once again, I'll hopefully see you guys